Good morning, everyone. Today, Met Institute of Mass Media, Met League of Colleges is elated to welcome an actress, writer, director, Mrs. Renuka Shahane. She has made a mark in the Marathi and Hindi film and TV industry for playing roles in popular films and serials like Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, Imtihan, Kora Kagaz, and many others. As a director, she released her first Marathi film Rita, adapted from her mother Shanta Gokhle's novel Rita Velinkar. Her first Hindi directorial debut was the very recent Tribhanga, starring Kajol, Tanvi Azmi, Mithila Palkar, and so many well known co stars. It is our pleasure to have you here today, ma'am, to share your experiences and life lessons with the budding media enthusiasts that we are. Let's
Thank
welcome
you.
Renuka Shahane ji.
Thank you for
Welcome,
having me.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could you walk us through your journey as a BA student to your big break in the industry?
I was very happy that I had found my subject in the first year when I was in college in St. Xavier's College, Mumbai.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with psychology, and I decided that I wanted to, kind of continue on that path.
Mhm.
And somewhere when I was in the second year BA of
Yeah.
college, there was this play happening in college called Andher Nagri Chaupat Raja, which had 14 songs, and I was part of the Sangeet Mandal of St. Xavier's College.
Okay.
So they wanted, voices, and I was one of those voices who would be singing in the
Oh, that's
background for this
lovely.
play. And suddenly this whole theater, the medium opened
Mhm.
up to me, and I just loved the idea of these people going into their characters, studying the
Mhm.
script, and then performing. And Satyadev Dubey happened to be a family friend of mine and my
Okay.
mother's, actually. So I've he's been in and out of my home since I was a kid, and
Mhm.
every time he would ask me, "Do you want to act in my play?" And I would say, "Nay, nay." Acting was never part of my, thought process, because I was always into studies and wanted to do well. Um, and suddenly, after this world opened up in SYBA, the next
Mhm.
time Dubey came home and he said, "Would you like to act in my play? Just काम खींचने के लिए." मैंने कहा, हाँ मुझे करनी है, काम करना है. Theater में not as an actress, but I want to be part of the process of theater. And
Mhm.
that's how I did my first play called Mumbai Ke Kauve, in which I was a crow, because the play didn't have any female characters. But Dubeji's play without female characters is not possible. So he cast five women as crows in the Bombay Takeover play. And
Oh.
Rajiv Naik saw me in that and asked me to play Desdemona in their, Rajya Natya Spardhesati. They used to perform Marathi plays,
Mhm.
and they were performing a Othello, and they wanted a Desdemona. And I said, straight crow say Desdemona was a big jump for me. And I said, but I wanted to be part of theatre. So then, ever since I did Desdemona, I did a lot of plays with their group called
Mhm.
Antarnatya. Lot of Marathi plays, not so many Hindi plays. But by that time, I think television had just started off with the the soaps basically, and it
Mhm.
was not just about news. And Gulan Kriplani and Jayant Kriplani were making a breakfast serial called PC on Mossy for Doordarshan, and it was just a 5 episode serial, and they wanted a young couple for that. And they had cast Farida Jalal in it, and they auditioned me. They asked me to read a
Mhm.
paragraph in Hindi, which I did, and I got that role. And that was the first time I faced a camera in my life. So till then, I was doing theater. So 1987 was my like padarpan in front of the camera, so to speak. And after that, like, I mean, I was balancing my college as well as theater, and acting was always a hobby for me. It was not my, it was not something I had thought of as a profession. And I went on to do my MA in clinical psychology at University of Mumbai, Kalina. And during that time, I was doing Lifeline as an actor. I assisted Dr. Vijay Mehta as a fourth assistant. I was a costume assistant in that. So I think the process of theater for me has been something of a discovery of everything behind the scenes, not just as an actor. And
Mhm.
when I assisted Dr. Vijay Mehta, I got really interested in the process of direction.
Okay.
And that's when my dream of actually becoming a director started in my mind. But I was still, doing my clinical psychology. I finished my clinical psychology. I had planned to do my PhD in child psychology, but I just taken a break of 1 year to really think of what I wanted to do in life. And during that time, I was offered circus, and I went and shot for that. And Aziz uncle, who was one of the directors of circus, was a sort of mentor, and he guided me and he said, "Nothing doing, Renuka. PhD, PhD, sab kuch chhod do. You have to become an actor." So I said, "See, I've never thought of it as a profession." He said, "But you have to. Next time somebody says to you, 'What are you going to do in life?' you say, 'I am an actress.'" So I said, "Okay." So उसके बाद मैं circus कर आई. I finished the shooting, and the next thing that was offered to me was Siddharth Kak's Surabhi. Of course, I called up Aziz uncle. I said, "ये तो anchoring hai. This is not acting." So he said, "नहीं नहीं, just go audition for it. Siddharth Kak is an amazing person to work with. So पता नहीं, you might have a great experience if you're chosen." तो मैंने वो fumble wumble करके audition दे दिया, and I got selected. Like, and for me, Circus came was released after Surabhi started on TV.
Oh.
So that's why people think that Circus came after. But we had already shot Circus, and I had already thought that okay, now I want to take up acting as a profession. And Surabhi started, and Surabhi went on for 10 years, and it became a sort of calling card. It was because of it, in a way, that I was also offered Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, and various things fell into place. So then after Surabhi, then I didn't have to kind of, look back. I think television, my journey in television started full time, and I forgot to do my PhD.
But ma'am, I really wouldn't have guessed that you stumbled upon the opportunity. Like Mangesh sir said, even my parents have been real big fans of Surabhi, and they
Thank
keep
you.
telling me, Renuka Shahane ma'am was so good, and her smile, like sir also mentioned, was it was contagious, as I'm guessing.
Yeah, at that time I got a lot of flack for that smile, by the way, because anything that is different from the establishment is considered, looked down upon sometimes, and that none of you would remember because you weren't there at that time. But Doordarshan at that time was full of very long faces and very serious faces, and basically, especially when you talk about art and culture, it was supposed to be talked off by people who were like in their 50s and 60s. And so this giggly girl asking questions about Indian culture was actually looked down upon by certain critics, and so Siddharth ji and I had to, Siddharth ji had to straighten me up a bit because I started becoming very serious while shooting, and Siddharth said, "What's happened to you?" And I said, "These critics are saying that I shouldn't be smiling so much because it kind of waters down the what do you say, the gravitas of Indian culture and art." And he said, "But that's not the way our program is meant to be. It's meant to be a conversation, a discovery, and we are not talking down to people. We are, kind of discovering along with people." So that was the reason why the smile came back on, and I think that's become a sort of USP, so to
It
speak.
has become a statement, I'd say, and everybody remembers you for more than the smile now.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, ma'am. You've done so many roles in so many films, and you have worked in the Marathi and the Telugu film industry,
Yeah.
according to what we've found out, particularly for money. So, how would you describe working for vernacular films as compared to the Indian cinema and vernacular regional films?
Yeah, well, I would say that there is a lot of very good content in in the regional space, much more than in the pan-Indian Hindi space. Actually,
Mhm.
because you're catering to a particular kind of person who has a particular culture. So you can take certain things for granted and move on to bigger topics and deeper
Mhm.
subjects. While when you're trying to cater to a pan-Indian sort of thing, then you're constantly giving reasons for certain cultural, specifics, or certain things that are related to certain ethnicity. So I think that it's liberating to work in a vernacular space in terms of subjects. Huh? As an
Mhm.
actor, it's very difficult because if you don't know the language, then you can't
Yeah.
really sink your teeth into it and do justice, and you want to. But I'll tell you, the first two feature films that I did were in
Mm-hmm.
languages that I wasn't familiar with. My very first was a film in Gujarati called Hu Hushi Hushi Lal, which I did. It was an experimental film made by Sanjeev Shah, and the entire shooting was in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, and Dilip Joshi was my hero in that, and everybody was Gujarati basically. And though I was familiar with the language because living in Mumbai, you have so many Gujarati friends, so you are
Mm-hmm.
used to growing up with a lot of Gujarati being spoken. But even then, to act and to understand the languages are two different things. And I realized that there were so many places where my expressions were totally wrong. I think now when I look back, but where money was concerned, I think my co-actors really helped me with each and every word. Like, I mean, Chakravarti, who was my co-star in Money, he would come in the evening and we would work on the scene that we were supposed to shoot the
Mm-hmm.
next day. And it was a Ram Gopal Verma production, so
Yeah.
Ramuji's production was really it was really so well managed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you needed was available to you. The cast and everybody was so young and so wanting to do something different, and so I think that energy and that whole attitude towards getting the best out of everybody helped a lot, because they would really work on me and explain things to me, and encourage me to kind of understand Telugu. So that's how I mean, it was a blast. I just had the best time in both Money and Money. And but I would, as an actor, I mean, if a vernacular regional film is offered to me, I would prefer if I could take the time and learn the language and then
Mm-hmm.
do it as an actor, because that would give me immense pleasure.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. So, how much time do you get to learn a language? Do you like have the script first and then you go through it and then
No,
learn the
no,
language, or you get it
no,
back?
no, no. Normally, you don't. In fact, money was offered to me because Bijon Das Gupta, the art director, he was an art director on many ad films that I did. And even now, ad films are made in many languages. So if I'm, kind of doing a Marathi Hindi ad, then they'll also make me say the line in Telugu, Tamil.
Correct.
So
Hmm.
you have to pick up, it's a small line, but you have to pick up that
Yeah.
in the same ledger, and you have language trainers on set
Correct.
and stuff. So Bijon Das Gupta realized that I could pick up languages very fast, and that's how
Hmm.
he offered, he suggested my name to Ramuji for money. So you also have to have a knack. If you're very rigid about,
True.
languages, learning a language is a skill. So not everybody can do it, and you don't really have that much time to work on it. But
Hmm.
you can take, say, 1 month over a script, and if you have a language trainer with you,
Hmm.
it's a good investment to kind of go through that exercise, because then you really enjoy the process as an actor
Okay, so you have a language trainer with you who trains you to, do
on the
these.
set usually. But if
Okay.
you invest in, if you decide that, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
have time, and you invest in a language trainer for you and work on
Okay.
the script before you start shooting on your own for your own
Oh,
self,
okay. All right.
then
Huh.
yeah, not related to the producer, but as an
Okay.
actor. Because I mean, suppose there is an a, a, a role that is offered to you in which you have to put on weight or lose weight, you take that
Mm-hmm.
time, right? You have your
Right.
gym trainer, you have your nutritionist along with you. So you have to invest in yourself, and then you'll reap the benefits. But very often you have very little time. At the time when I was talking about in terms of money, I was working like 31 days or 48 days if it was possible. It was that cut to cut. So I had no time to actually invest in,
A
learning
language.
the language.
Hmm.
So it was the first time I saw the script was on the set, and that's what makes it very tough.
And then to adapt the language, ma'am, this is like
Yeah,
really a big,
very tough.
big task, as I'm guessing. So,
Yeah,
ma'am,
it
since
is.
you worked in the TV industry and the film industry, you've done TV commercials and you've also
Yeah,
done serials. Which would you
yeah.
prefer? Which one would you prefer? Say, acting for films or acting for daily soaps or serials, which is like shorter
Daily
content.
soaps is out of the question. I don't like the content. I don't like, the rigor of it,
Mm-hmm.
because For me, being a freelancer gives me, it's a very liberating thing, you know. It's a choice that one makes between, you know, a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 7 job,
Mhm.
versus a freelance job where you sometimes work and sometimes you don't. You take offs.
Okay.
Daily soaps don't leave you that time at all, and the characters are not the same. There is no middle and end. There's only a beginning, and
Yeah.
you don't know what the middle and what the end is going to be of that. So it's not really satisfying to a person like me who has already done weeklies, which have handled such a range of topics and the kind
Mm.
of roles that were offered to, you know, all actresses at that point who were doing television are just not possible today. So I'd
Mm.
rather not go into the daily soap space. But I think where web series are concerned, like I did What the Folks, and I enjoyed it so much. I did season 2 and 3, and that was a sort of ensemble cast kind of thing, and it was a really cool character to play, and it was a limited series, so you didn't
Mm.
mind that, you know. So I feel either if you're going to continue with a character for a long period of time, um, you should have a seasonal sort of thing, or you know, you have a feature film, which is much more satisfying then, because then you kind of think of a character, you play that character,
Mm.
and it's a very enriching sort of experience. While acting in a daily soap then becomes like a 9 to 12 job,
Mm.
and that's not something that is conducive to my personality, I would say.
Mm.
So for creativity, I would say acting in theater or feature films or web series would be much more exciting for me personally.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think I've never heard anybody call an actor a freelance actor. To be very honest, I love the term that you mentioned because it is important to take breaks. And the concept
Yeah.
that you've just explained to all of us, where, sometimes you work, sometimes you don't, which
Yeah.
is when I'm guessing you yourself feel, like you have time and
Yes.
creativity then buds, as I'm
Yes,
expecting.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, ma'am, talking about creativity, like you've switched from being an actress to being a director, and your first film was Rita, which was adapted from your mother's book. Could
Yeah.
you walk us through the journey of how you wanted to do that particular film itself?
But as I mentioned, direction was always on my mind, but acting took over, and it was so immersive that it left me with very little time to do anything. Though I had written and directed a one short story for this Z Rishte called Cross Connection. It had Sonali Kulkarni and Shilpa Tulaskar and Akshay Anand and Anup Soni in it. So
Hmm.
that was something that I had written and directed, and I would have loved to continue directing, but as I said, acting just didn't leave me very much time. And it was only after I got married and I had children and I was at home, I had taken a well earned sabbatical, I would say, and also because I wanted to concentrate on giving my time to my family.
Hmm.
That was a time when my husband reminded me that this is a time that you are at home, you can, you know, kind of think of scripting, you can
Yeah.
think of direction, and I hadn't ever written a feature film script till then.
Yeah.
So I said, let me just, you know, kind of adapt something that has been, you know, in my mind for a very long time. I
Hmm.
had really loved my mother's novel Rita Velinkar, and it has stayed, and it has this kind of very, it's very translatable into cinema. So I decided to write a screenplay on Rita. Of course, I took my mom's permission, and it was only when she approved of the screenplay that I decided to go ahead and, you know, kind of direct it.
Hmm.
And luckily, you know, everything fell in place. I got the world's best producers, I would say, in Pooja and Aarti Shetty,
Hmm.
and a wonderful cast with Pallavi Joshi, Jackie
Of
Shroff,
course.
and Saita Mankar, and so Mohan Agashe, and
Ma'am, you
it was
yourself worked
really
in the film.
lovely. I had to. I mean, I was left with very little money at that point in time to cast Saraswati, and she was an important role, but she
Hmm.
didn't have too many, you know, lines, dialogues.
Hmm. Yeah.
Her role was much more a presence sort of thing, but it was a very important role. So then what to do? So I did it. But I would ideally not like to act in the films that I direct, because
Yeah.
it's a very, yeah, it's very confusing. And I'm not doing direction because I want to play roles that I'm dreaming of.
Of
That's not the
mm,
reason. I want to direct because I just love the process of direction, to be in
mhm,
charge, to be completely in control, and bring on the brickbats as well as the bouquets. I'm willing to take it all. So it's a beautiful process. I think as a director, to be a film director is a very, very satisfying thing, much more than being a film actor, I would
mm,
say, because I think film is a director's medium. So
true.
to be the captain of that ship is really very, very exciting.
That's such a nice thing you said, ma'am. And I think when you've acted in your own film that you've directed, you bring so much more to the character, as I'm guessing. And I've read about the character, of course,
Yes.
um, where, it says it's a very supportive role to the lead character, which
Yeah.
is, so you're the best person to bring it out in that
Yeah,
sense.
it's a studied contrast, Rita and Saraswati are absolutely two opposites, and yet they are the best of friends.
Yeah.
And Rita reaches out to her at a point in time when she is really at her lowest.
Mm,
And she knows that this girl can be her anchor, just as you need somebody to listen. Na? Nobody wants to listen. Everybody is talking, but you want a friend who will just listen and who's not going
mm,
to give you solutions. You're not interested. You might even know those solutions. So
yeah.
that is that phase that Rita is in. And she really needs somebody who's an anchor. And I think through their connection, the
Mhm,
bonding that you find in women, for me, is very important in life and as a writer also.
mm,
Because very often women are portrayed as each other's worst enemies, and I don't really subscribe to that point of view. I mean, it being enemies is genderless. I think it's not gender specific. It's just whether you like a person or not like a person. It has nothing to do with gender. But the connection that women have, and I have luckily been born and brought up around the strongest women, and they are the strongest supporters of me in life, and they're also my harshest critics, but not
mm,
critics for bringing me down, but critics for getting the best out of me. And I think
mm,
we need to understand the power that the sisterhood has, to support each other, to empower each other. I think that's a
true.
very beautiful thing. And if you see in my whether it's Tribhanga or whether it's Rita, you will always find women who are supportive of each other, and
Right.
also who are the maybe the crux of the problem as well. But I think that if you get the support of your female friends or sisters or mother, grandmother, whatever, that kind of support is very, very empowering.
It's a very fresh approach or a fresh perspective that we've come across, really. And I was just going to ask you, so there's a lot of, women-centric films that you work on, say Rita, and now you've come out with Tribhanga. What
Yeah.
would you say is the difference between creating contents in these two different time frames? Like,
A
when.
lot, I would say, a lot, because I don't think that I could have made a Tribhanga for the
Hmm,
normal theater screens.
true.
It doesn't lend itself to that kind of I mean, we did try and go that way to try
Mm-hmm.
to get a producer to um, see it through in the mainstream, because I think, yeah, people are now much more interested in varied types of subjects, and
Hmm.
are much more open to a lot of differences in characters, nuances in characters. They want to go away from the formula, and so Tribhanga is not a very formulaic film in that sense.
That's,
So we tried to, but um, each and every time we did face that thing of censorship, that there are certain things which will be censored and which
that,
will water down, especially the central character Anu. And I didn't want her to be watered down. I didn't want
hmm,
her to be censored. The whole point is that she's an uncensored person.
yeah.
So for us, it was a lucky time to be a filmmaker, because we had the OTT platform who was willing to support a subject like this, and
Hmm.
that's how it. So I think that it's good to have theatrical releases. It's good to have the OTT platform now. I think it has opened up the world for content makers. And it's
Hmm.
very important because not all stories can be told in a particular way. Not all stories will be something that families would like to go and see. And yet,
Hmm.
there is a validity to all sorts of subjects, right? So I
Correct.
think that's what OTT has opened up. That kind of space has been opened up to a lot of content creators.
Right. And that is much more difficult for directors, I'm guessing, to cater to that need of a changing viewer. What would you say to this changing need of viewers? And that change is very quick, as.
I think it's exciting. I wouldn't say that it's not something you should be scared of. In fact,
Mhm.
uh, being in the same place should be scary. If you don't move ahead or if you don't learn something new every day, that's a scary
That's.
thing. I think
um,
that moving ahead and refreshing yourself and relearning and learning more is a process which will keep you from being just a part of history, and you will be able to speak to younger and younger generation without having that gap. I mean, if
hmm.
you're moving along and if you're studying along, like the new digital medium, there's a lot of technical people who just can't adapt themselves to the new digital age, and that will just stop you from working. You don't get work then. So
Hmm.
whether it's editors, whether it's cinematographers, whether it's filmmakers, whether it's actors, you have to get used to new mediums to keep you fresh,
Hmm.
to keep you in the business of making films, which is the youngest, I think, art form.
Hmm.
Filmmaking is not a very old
Yeah.
art form. It's not like paintings which are there from Bhimbetka and rock cave paintings.
Mhm.
It's a relatively newer art form. So because it's a new art form, it's like a adolescent.
Yeah.
So it is the quickness that adolescents have in their tastes, in their attention spans, is
Correct.
the way filmmaking is. So I think we really need to be on our toes to adapt to the changes.
So you yourself, as in the industry themselves, have to keep changing, evolving to
Absolutely.
cater to these needs of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Ma'am, if you can lead us into a little secret project that you've been working on, have you been shooting for OTT platforms or have you been considering shooting, directing for any particular platform?
No, not for any particular platform, because
Mhm.
each time you have to start from the very beginning. You don't have
Mm.
a just because you've made two films doesn't mean that your third film will be any easier.
Mhm.
And this is something that I'd like to tell everybody, that the process is very, very tough. Yeah, things are opened up because you can just put your content on YouTube these days, and sometimes it just makes you an overnight star or an overnight filmmaker. Somebody, you catch somebody's attention. That uh, possibility is definitely there, which was not there
Hmm.
at all. The approach itself was so difficult early to break through, but now you can. There is a democracy in this digital age
Hmm.
that will catch eyeballs even if you're not part of the very established producers, directors, and
Right.
actors. But the problem is that there is so much. How
Mhm.
do you stand out?
True.
you know so each time, as I said, like now I've done Tribhanga with Netflix, and I have a group of people who I'm familiar with, and I have
Hmm.
this, but maybe they don't like my next script, so I have to pitch it. I have to go that route all along. So I'm in a stage where I've just finished scripting a particular film, so I'll start pitching it. you know and I don't know how long it will take. There is no timeline that you can decide for yourself. And also, of course, I've done a very interesting acting project which will be released sometime in June, I think. So I'm looking
Wow.
forward to that as well. But basically, write. I just love writing. Luckily for me, I mean, that's a very therapeutic thing that I
Hmm.
love doing. I love being at home. So both of that really matches my personality. So that's something that I'm doing. I'm developing a comedy script which I have still not completed.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm working on next, and also a web series. So there's a lot happening.
Yay. Thank you so much. So we'll be in anticipation that we watch all of these new web series that you're coming
Yeah.
out with. Okay, ma'am, this is a standard question that I'm going to ask you. And this is in every interview we do. What do you think is the industry going to be like in the post-COVID era?
Well, I think that we have to be mindful. If you want theatrical releases, we have to
Hmm.
be mindful of the fact that, you know, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have gone through a lot of stress during COVID, and the world is still not back to normal. So there are certain constraints that you have to be aware of. So for theatrical releases, I think that. We have to be mindful of the fact that you have to get your money back. So there has to be that kind of subject matter. Shooting sometimes is very difficult in crowded spaces. So very often now, as writers, we are thinking in terms of small units, intimate stories, things that can be shot easily, less expensive stuff. Less wasteful expense, I would say. So I think, paring down this whole behemoths that is filmmaking, making it down to the basics,
Hmm.
and what is really essential and what is necessary, I think is important. At the same time, we have to encourage the film industry, because I think 80% of unskilled labor gets a chance, gets its daily wages from the industry. I think it is a huge employment giver. And so I
Hmm.
think that it's we have to do everything possible to support the industry to get back on its feet. So we have to support it as an audience, to go to theaters and see it, and of course see even OTT content, so that the competition makes the subject matter even more vibrant, even more related to what we want today, even more related to what the audience needs to see. So I think that's the way forward. I think a good healthy balance would be very, very good.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's it from my end. I would ask you if you could spare 5 to 10 minutes for the class to ask any questions if they have.
Yeah, yeah, sure, 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 sure.
Anyone, if you have questions, please raise your hand and we'll take them.
Thanks, Anit. It's a very good and interesting and insightful session. So my
Thank
question is like you said that direction gave you the maximum satisfaction. Still, you started as an actor, and then you are still acting. So
you. Yeah.
What's the thing that acting है? What's मतलब कोई ऐसी चीज जो एक्टिंग से आपको डायरेक्शन में हेल्प होती है या फिर something you enjoy in acting more than direction that you
No, I
still
think as an actor, I think what you actually do is get to live various lives, because you really have to get into the character that you're playing, and they're not necessarily the kind of characters that you are. Like, I mean, their beliefs might be completely different, they might be from a very different culture. So it opens up your mind as a human being, I would say. Doing a character which is completely different from what you believe in, for that you have to actually get convinced by the character, and then portray the character, so that it doesn't look as if you're confused about it. So I think as an actor, it's a very, very, since my subject is psychology, for me it's very satisfying. And also, in a way, it helps me as a writer, because it helps me open up my mind to lots of shades of gray that all of us have. It helps me confront the kind of prejudices that I might carry as an individual, and that in turn, those life experiences in turn help me as a director. The basic way that my acting helps, which I think more than Rita, I think it really helped me in Tribhanga, was the fact that actors are so comfortable with me as a director, because I can
relate to
kind of
you
help
like
them help them
yeah
in a very particular manner, because I've gone through various things in
same
a similar
phase
way.
right
Yeah, yeah. And I will also obviously want their comfort, want them to feel happy on the set. So that is not something that I have seen the difference between actors who become directors and directors who have never acted in their life. And very often for them, there is no difference between an actor and a curtain. But for
yeah
me, there is. For me, curtains are non living things and actors are living things. So that basic difference I can never forget as an actor. So yes, I am a pro actor director in that sense. And yet I would say that because I'm an actor who has been helped so incredibly by so many directors, cinematographers, editors, music directors, to enhance what I do. I also value the technical crew that I work with, because uh, I know that just an actor can never make or break a film. It's all about the people, the 150 people on the set who are making things comfortable so that you can portray your best.
Yes, ma'am. And you are one of the few who did both the jobs very flawlessly, either acting or
Thank you.
directing, even writing. Like
Thank you
I
so much.
especially like Tribhanga very much. Like I just
Thank
saw, so
you.
it's really nice. Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arshita. We have Sanskriti up next.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Hi, Sanskriti.
Ma'am, first thing first, you look gorgeous, like beautiful.
अरे
I
बड़ा मेहनत का
cannot
काम है यार.
emphasize enough on how beautiful you look.
Thank you
It's,
so much.
I mean, it's a pleasure seeing you talking to all of us and sharing so much about your life and
Thank
experience.
you.
So I happened to call my parents and I'm like, look at her, she's so beautiful. And my dad is like, okay, wait, let me see. And my mom is okay, let me see. And my dad is like, oh, I know her. She's from the show Surabhi that used to
Surabhi.
was on Doordarshan. I've seen her. And my dad is like, tell her I appreciate her work a lot. So that is the first
Thank you
thing.
so much. But I believe that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So unless you are willing to see beauty,
Oh, ma'am,
you'll
that
never
makes
see
my day.
it.
You won't believe that makes my
Thank
day
you.
so much better. And another thing that I would like to ask is Annette told about so many things that you have done. And you also write, direct. And now that my dad told me about the show, I was like, okay, I'm Googling what is that. And I read about it's about Indian culture and quiz. And
Right.
I was pretty much interested. And
Yeah.
it was amazing. So I wanted to know,
Thank
so
you.
you have done so many work in your life and you're so experienced. What is that one thing that you personally want to be remembered as in the industry for the people
In
among the
the industry, I think for my professionalism, because there are always people who are so much more talented than I am, and there'll be people who are so much more well known than I am, and who are richer, more powerful, perhaps. But I think that for my profession, I remember that people used to say that you can, kind of change the timing of your watch if your watch is not working, then you can set your watch according to when Renuka comes on the set. And I think that has held me in good stead throughout my life, and it'll help you in everything that you do. Your professionalism, your discipline, your hard work is something that because there'll be lucky days, there'll be horrid days. But
right,
if you are disciplined and if you're willing to put in your hard work, that is something that people appreciate always. And the second thing that I would say is people are always good to people who are more powerful than you. But if you behave well with people who are less powerful than you on the set, then that just kind of spreads a lot of goodwill. And I think
right.
that is also very, very important as a person.
All right, ma'am. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, we have Karan next.
Hi, good morning, ma'am.
Good
It
morning,
was,
Karan.
good morning. It was very nice to hear and know a lot more details about what your journey was and all. So, ma'am,
Thank you.
my one of my question is, you've seen the industry for a long time now. See, from the
Yes.
90s, you've seen Salman, Shah Rukh, Amir, and all
Yeah.
act compared to a Ranveer, and all those, the new generation. So, is
Yeah.
there any difference in terms of the craft which they have or the way they operate? Do you see any changes in that?
um I worked with both Salman and Shah Rukh in the 90s. I've not really had an opportunity to work with them. I've met them, but not had an opportunity to work with them to really observe what, what their work pattern has it changed. I am not really sure of that. But I think that they're all kind of looking for that subject matter which will give them relevance even today, I would say. Because that's a huge thing. People like Ranbir, people like Ranbir Kapoor, people like Siddharth Malhotra, Varun Dhawan, they are trying out, like Vicky Kaushal, they're trying out different subjects, and they might not have that, कि भाई है ये इंडस्ट्री का या बादशाह है ये इंडस्ट्री का, but the relevance that they have today, it's something that I think Salman and Shah Rukh and Amir are still searching. I think Amir has cracked it a bit by, kind of even aging and not aging, and he does these magic tricks, which I think VFX helps a lot in. But I think for Shah Rukh, I would say, the kind of role that he did in Dear Zindagi, for instance, is just so correct, because if you have an advisor like Shah Rukh Khan, who wouldn't listen to him? So that, that's the stage where he's achieved so much in life. So what kind of film can he do now? What is that thing which will use his star power and yet satisfy his soul as an actor? I think that is something that Shah Rukh still has to crack. He's in that journey. Well, I think Salman has done it, because he knows what he's good at. He knows what people want him to be good at, and he's doing his stuff. But there is that thing. They're all searching, I think, for that thing which will match what they had in the 90s and 2000s. I think. Don't you think?
I do think so, ma'am. And just to
Yeah.
follow up, if I can add it, ma'am, one more thing. You've been in the industry, as I said, for so many years. What still keeps driving you today to go and do a good job, like do something creative, like just go and
I
work?
think it goes back to my theater days, I would say, because in theater, amateur theater especially, I never did commercial theater. So in theater, it is just the love of the art that you are spending your time and sometimes your money in. So you had to just dip into your own pockets. At that time, we didn't even have money; we were not even earning, and yet we wanted to do something. And the other thing that really trained me at a very early stage was the fact that very often in theater we had less people watching us as compared to what we were on the stage. Like there were 20 on the stage and 5 people in the audience, and we still had to do the same job. I mean, kind of do it with the same intensity, do it with the same passion. So there is it helped me in understanding that what you are doing is not related to whether you get a good response or not. The main thing is, like, I mean, sorry to say this, but in Bhagavad Gita you saying, karam karo phal ki chinta mat karo. That is exactly the thing that I got trained in theater. And I think that's a huge lesson for anybody doing anything in life, in their professions, because if you expect and if you think that, oh, I've done so much mehnat and people should love this and they are not loving this, and then you just go into a very, very depressed zone. And today, I think mental health is an issue that we don't talk about enough. But especially in a profession like ours, especially in acting, you can get into, however powerful you are, you can get into a deep zone of depression, and because of the ups and downs that we face. So what keeps you going is that fact that just don't think about what is going to happen of the things that you're doing. Just do it with as much intensity as you can, and then अच्छा लगे तो बहुत ही अच्छा, feel happy about it. नहीं अच्छा लगे तो keep working hard. That's it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, do you have little more time because we have three more people to ask you
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Okay.
No problem.
Ria, you can go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, ma'am. First of all, it's an honor to speak to you. So thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time. What I
Thanks.
wanted to ask you was that what do you think is the difference in the life of an actor or a celebrity now from the point of view of PR? Like, I assume that earlier as well, the actors had to follow a certain narrative with the media. But, like, what do you think is the difference now in this time?
I think earlier, in fact, we didn't. We were ourselves in front of the media very often
Okay.
because we didn't have too many of chances of interacting. It was only, I mean, people would come to our sets and interview us if they wanted to, if they felt that we were relevant enough, to be covered by the magazines. And at that time, VHS pe Lehre Vehre aata tha, which had, covering of the shootings and some interviews and all that. But it was not such a big thing. PR was of, this was not this huge that you see these days, where you're going on every show and you're getting interviewed constantly. In fact, this whole paparazzi thing that is happening, that you're followed everywhere that you go, because everybody has a camera these days. So then, you know, you just have to constantly be ready to be either trolled or, kind of observed. So it's like you're in Big Boss 24 hours, literally, as a celebrity. And it's a difficult space to be, because you want to be yourself. And we used to, in the 90s and 2000s, I used to go shopping bindas. People would recognize me, they would come up to me, they would talk to me, and I still try and do that. But it's getting increasingly difficult because of people with cameras, and people who are photographers, who are everywhere. Wherever you go, there'll be a photographer who's chasing you. So yeah, it's a very, I think, intrusive thing that has happened. So you have to be even more careful. I think now everybody is so much more careful of what they are putting out, you know. So everything has become so much political also. Kuch bhi bolo, uska politics bana dete hain. So I think that is something that one has to just get used to. And for people like me, who are like very very possessive of my privacy, it's a very very tough choice, because as a celebrity, you're owned by everybody, and at the same time you want to be your own person. So it's tricky. I would say that people today have it more tough than when we were in the 90s, 2000s. We were like, very happy, yeah. In the sense that
Yeah.
we could just be, you know
Yeah.
and itna kuch, nothing would be made out of it so much. Like now, if you, even a little statement can be misconstrued, constantly portrayed, and you'll have this whole army of either followers or trolls at
Yeah.
you the whole
Goes
day.
both
So
ways.
that's very, yeah, it works both ways.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll be taking the last two questions. Anybody
Okay.
else, please do not lift your hand. I would ask Anurag Sai to please ask his question.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Anurag.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, good morning.
Yeah, actually, good morning.
Yeah, I'm from South Telangana.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah. Before this meeting, I just Googled you because I do not watch more Hindi films.
Ah,
But now, as of now, I'm watching.
acha.
So I don't know you. I was Googled you, and I came to know your husband is Astos Rana sir.
Ashutosh Rana.
Yeah,
Eh.
yeah. He's a he's
He's done
fine.
a lot of films in
Yeah,
Telugu.
yeah. Especially wide roles of villain roles.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He's well known
Yeah,
for them.
yeah. And I love his action. You know,
Thank you.
as
Thank you
performer.
so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and my question is, ma'am, can you share your experience about character establishment?
Mm,
For example, if you want a character to portray bad
mm,
and he is nice in inside,
yeah.
so while film comes to an end, the
Mm,
character portrays as good.
mm,
The audience and the characters in the film
mm.
make sense that he is good, but
Okay.
from first of the film, he is bad to everyone.
Mm.
So the establishment of character, how would you approach to these characters? How would you improve these characters?
See, I think that the backstory of every character that is not shown on screen is very important for an actor to develop a character.
Okay.
So if the graph is that, though the person is being very, very mean to everybody throughout the film, but internally the person is, actually a nice person, and the actor has to face the very simple sort of line that everybody has the whole spectrum of emotions within us.
Okay.
We are the most evil also, and we are the most uh, beautiful human beings also, wonderful human beings. So what we portray is a mixture of what we inherit, what our circumstances are, who are the people around us, and what is our ambition in life, and what happens in the story itself. So, to construct a character, it is very important to know the backstory of why a particular person is behaving in an evil manner, though the person is a very nice person underneath. Is it a defense mechanism because the person has, got so many bad experiences from people who he has trusted, that he immediately reacts in a bad way so that he's not hurt in the process? So there are many reasons why a person would be evil to other people, carrying goodness in his heart, which finally comes through. So at the end of the film, you could portray through the fact that he's actually so nice with the birds, feeding the birds,
Yeah.
or feeding stray animals. Like, the goodness of his heart is shown in places like that, but when it comes to human beings, he's very mean and very evil. So what is the backstory of this person? If you don't get a backstory, try and construct it yourself as an actor. Give yourself a backstory, make that character convincing to you, and then you will be able to portray it, because that is not going to be seen on screen, but your work will help you portray this very nuanced character on screen, I think. Did I
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome. By
Thank you,
the way, you'll be
Anurag.
very happy to know I spent a good part of my life in Visakhapatnam because my father was in the Navy. So
Oh.
I have very fond memories of Visakhapatnam.
Oh. It's good. Yeah.
I'm
Thank you,
now
ma'am.
even more
Thanks.
excited because I'm from Visakhapatnam.
Yay!
Yes. Okay, lovely. We have our last question for the day. Rishi, you can ask your question.
हाय गुड मॉर्निंग मॅम.
Good morning.
मॅम मी तुमचे मूवीज आणि टीव्ही शोज तर खूप बघितलेत, बट
Thank
देन
you.
हाऊ वॉज इट जजिंग फू बाय फू अँड कॉमेडीची बुलेट ट्रेन अँड ऑल्सो बिईंग अ contestant in झलक दिखला जाएगा.
Oh, that I think was one of the most difficult things to be, because there is this whole structure of a reality show which is actually decided. Let's be very frank. And I'm not that savvy. I wasn't that savvy about that code. That a lot of youngsters who were performing with me or who were contestants with me knew it. Like, they were so clued in, and I was like completely clueless. But for me, it was a very important journey, because I have never been a very good dancer. Like, I mean, dance for me is something I was very inhibited about. So I wanted to break that inhibition. And so I was not looking at it as a contest at all. I was looking at it from my personal point of view, to get me to, kind of overcome my inhibitions in front of people. That is something that, and you're open to criticism. That's another thing that is very difficult to take for most people. So you're actors finally, and you're not being judged for acting, but you're being judged for something else that you're not very good at. So I think that process helped me a lot. It helped me to be very humble, I would say. And it also helped me to understand my body, which is very important for an actor. Like, I mean, throughout my acting career, I have concentrated much more, because television mein wahi hota hai, vachik abhinay, like you are completely dependent on how you speak, and there's very little of the body that is kind of portraying emotions and stuff like that. So I think when you get into a zone like a dance thing, if your body just tells you that, my god, you're so stiff, you need to do something to break free. And it helped me. And after I was eliminated from Jhalak, I started the journey to become much more healthy, I think. And because I realized I had zero stamina, and also I think I inspired a lot of housewives at that point, who wanted to dance, and who
What?
thought
Yeah.
कि अरे बच्चों के बाद करना कैसे करना. So it was a very interesting journey for me. Of course, being a judge is difficult, because I'm a very lenient person. I like appreciating things rather than criticizing things. So that was the approach I took to judging. Very often there were things that were not funny at all, but I would always try to find something that was funny that I could talk about and encourage the people, because it's very difficult to be judged. And so both Fubai Fu and Comedy Chi Bullet Train especially I really enjoyed, because I had Makarand Anaspure with me, and he's such a well-read, intelligent person, and his roles belie that. But he's a very very good thinker. So we shared a great respect for each other, and I really enjoyed myself being a judge.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. My mom will be super happy I had a conversation with you. She has been following you since a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Please thank her.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Can I
On
ask
that
one
note,
question?
ma'am, can we take one last question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Anand, you can go ahead.
Madam, I'm Dr. Anand Shedge. I'm a faculty. तुम्हाला एक
Namaste.
प्रश्न विचारायचा आहे. Just tell me about the regional Marathi film.
Ah.
And there are two questions: regional Marathi film and Hindi film. How you looks at this two about the new young artist, maybe a director, new coming from the drama background? How you feel about this regional Marathi film industry as well as Hindi film industry?
Uh,
And another
as I said,
question for you: how is your journey about the Surabhi to till today what you are? And I think a turning point of the Surabhi. So just these are the two questions from my side. Thank you so much.
okay, so welcome. No, I think that, in the Marathi space, I think because our audience is limited in that sense, um, we do what we do best, which is content. We share more than rather than concentrating on being technically savvy and spending too much money, and that's not something that we can afford to do as a Marathi industry. So I think the kind of subjects that we bring forth, we concentrate on our screenplay, we concentrate on our characters. Our films are character driven, and I think that's why we have such a strong we are very strong in terms of content. uh, the reach, unfortunately, we've still not cracked it like the Telugu or Tamil or Malayalam films, that are getting a lot of pan Indian attention now. Film buffs in India are looking at those films, looking forward to watching. I think Marathi films has a great amount of content, great young directors who are doing such a wide variety of dealing with a wide variety of subjects. So I think our unfortunate thing is that our competition becomes directly with the Hindi films, when it comes to a general release. It's very, very tough to deal with producers who have more money to, get their all the screens that they sit on, like octopuses. They have all their hands all over. And the Marathi producer, it's very difficult to, kind of get through. Very rarely, like me, Shivaji Raze Bhosle Bolto hai, or Sairat have done even better than Hindi films. In fact, Jimma now has done better than the Hindi films released recently. So it's very, very tough to, kind of get a release in Mumbai. Pune, Nashik, still, Marathi films are seen much more. But I think, like in Nagpur also, like to make a breakthrough in Nagpur with a Marathi film is also very difficult. So all over Maharashtra, there are pockets where Hindi is, much more predominant. Telugu, Tamil are much more predominant. Kolhapur side, like I mean, it's crazy how much we have to deal with. So in that, we are trying to do what is best for us, which is the content-driven films and character-driven films. And I think we do manage to get films spoken about. Our Chaitanya Tamhane is making all of us are proud, with the Disciple Court and stuff like that. So it's a difficult journey, but I think that because there are so many young filmmakers like Umesh Kulkarni, Aditya Sarpotdar, and Sachin Kundalkar, and these are young filmmakers who are making such good content in Marathi that I think it's a golden period for Marathi films in that sense. And Hindi films, of course, as I said, unfortunately, I would say that Hindi films nowadays has started showing regional stuff, like, people are showing Uttar Pradesh specific films or Rajasthan specific films, or but still, I think that to get a pan Indian subject in that sense is something that Hindi films go for, and I think that's why they are not as good as the regional subjects. I think they have to cater to a much wider sort of audience, and in that they get restricted, in fact. And they have all the money and all the glamour, and yet, they don't make that much of a mark as they should. So it has its own problems, I would say. I feel very comfortable working in Marathi films because it's like a family affair. Ghar ki shadi. Sometimes you get your own stuff also onto the set, because the main purpose is that the film should be made and it should be made well, which I miss in the Hindi scenario. But yeah, it's more comfortable for you as a filmmaker because you have much more a bigger budget, so you can kind of, your scope can be bigger in Hindi, I would say. And yeah, my journey, I think I've covered quite a lot of the journey bit
Yes.
from Surabhi onwards. So, but it's just that, yeah, I bring on all the mediums, basically, I would say. I would want to work in each and every medium that is offered to me as a actor, as a filmmaker. And so I'm learning each and every day, trying to keep myself from being forgotten.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On that note, ma'am, I would like to thank you from the deepest, bottomest part of my heart for coming here and making our morning so bright. I am very sure that your smile has gotten smiles on all of our faces, and we'll maintain that throughout the day now, although it's a Monday.
So, oh
Thank-
yeah, it's a Monday.
It is a Monday, but you made it really bright and happy. Thank you so much, ma'am. We've learned a lot from your experiences and the lovely little quotes and learnings that you've given us from the industry. I think all of us will take back and remember.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank
bye.
you.